Who's your commander?
Good luck.
Equip.
Move to combat. Resolves.
Right.
Now, before you attack
Does
me,
anyone have an answer?
well played.
Good game.
Hey everyone, DJ here. This is the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel, and back in the day, I used to be so excited when standard rotation would come around. As a commander player, I would go to my game store and there'd be so many standard players that would just want to get rid of their standard staples that weren't good anymore. And as a commander player, I would gobble them up for very cheap prices. Unfortunately, that's not really the case anymore. Commander really does drive the price of the format. So I don't know if you can get the absolute best deals as standard rotates, but I do know that everyone is hyped about Dominaria and new stuff coming out, and some of the older sets have some gems that are perfect for Commander, and these are the cards that I'm buying right now. I'll be honest with you, I really want to buy Dominaria United cards, but I'm going to fill out my collection with some of these staples, and many of them are really well priced or have really cool versions. Let's talk about Zendikar Rising. That's one of the sets rotating out of standard. This set had some great landfall synergies. I think one of the best was a reprint in Lotus Cobra. Lotus Cobra is a 2-mana mana dork, but it synergizes so well with ramp, which you have a ton of in these green decks, and also things like fetch lands. And so you have this ability to just pump up your mana out of nowhere while you're already doing what you want to do. There's also an exceptional promo version. The art is exceptional, and it's under $2 for this mana snake. Now you might ask yourself, what happens if I don't have enough lands? Well, maybe you can make your creatures lands with Ashaya Soul of the Wild. 5-mana legendary creature elemental. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control, and non-token creatures you control are forest lands in addition to their other types. This has so much combo potential because there's so many land synergies, and lands have this like protected status a little bit. And so being able to have every creature also be a land means that they're always triggering landfall. There's really cool corner case scenarios of bouncing lands, untapping lands, things like that make Ashaya really fun. Now, this is a little bit pricey, coming in at $8.25, but the ability of turning creatures into forests creates so many interesting rules interactions that this is just waiting to be, it's already a little bit broken, but it's waiting to be even more broken open. And so I think it's worth picking up. There are more important land synergies that we need to talk about. Scoot Swarm. Scoot Swarm is 2 and a green for a 1/1 insect with landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. If you control 6 or more lands, create a token that's a copy of Scoot Swarm instead. Which means as you keep ramping, you have more and more lands, then you get Scoot Swarms, and then each of those create more Scoot Swarms, which create more Scoot Swarms. Like, with enough ramp, this can be a win condition, taking over the game. And there's tons of really cool, interesting things it can do, especially like what happens if you mutate on top of Scoot Swarm and you make extra copies of mutates. Yeah, it's super fun. This also has a beautiful version of it that I like a lot, and the price has been impacted favorably by a reprint in New Capenna Commander. So really a solid card for all those landfall decks. Next, we have a card that's really similar. It's Felidar Retreat. 3 and a white for an enchantment, landfall, create a 2/2 cat, or put a +1/+1 counter on all your creatures. They get vigilance. This is similar to Scoot Swarm because you play your lands, you play your normal game plan, and then you create dudes or you make your team big. It's really solid. You also have to get the promo version of this. Not only does it look amazing, but you also get to avoid this weird looking cat, which I can only imagine like having a bow on their head. I don't know. The normal art is really weird for me. All right, as weird as the cats are on Felidar Retreat, that's as cute as the cats are on Asika's Chariot. Look at these little guys. They're so cute. I mean, I love the cats on this one, but the art on the frame on the other Kaldheim cards is just so good. So any card that has that frame means that it's more likely to get into my deck. But Azika's Chariot's just fantastic because you not only diversify your threats, having a vehicle and these tokens, but also it's this ability to copy a token. Azika's Chariot saw a lot of play and was super powerful in Standard and Alchemy, things like that. So much so that they nerfed it in some formats. But they didn't even have access to the craziest tokens. they just had access to more cats. And so with Commander and our ability to really break this copy token effect means that Azika's Chariot's even better for us. All right, let's talk about another powerful token creator in Koma Cosmos Serpent. 3 green, green, blue, blue for a 6/6 serpent, can't be countered, makes 3/3s every upkeep, which is great in multiplayer, and then has this added protection of sort of tapping things down, making them unable to activate, or giving Koma indestructible, meaning that it's really difficult to interact with this card. The price has come down on this one. You can get copies between $6.25 and $5.50. All right, but what I should really be talking about is a different kind of token, and that is the power and, widespread use of treasure tokens. They are everywhere, and they saw a lot of early power in these most recent sets. I think Goldspan Dragon is like the one, the powerhouse, because when you take treasures and double them up, it just means you have so much more mana, so much more access to mana. Unfortunately, $23 for this card, like that's a lot. I am going to pick one up because I have decks that have an insane amount of treasure production, and I feel like I need the added benefit of Goldspan Dragon and doubling up all that mana. Of course, I can double up my mana on a budget with Zorn. This is coming out of Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. There's also a cool version of, I don't know if I can call this cool, but there is another version of Zorn that looks like something. Being able to double up treasures, just like with Goldspan Dragon, is huge, but putting these things together is spectacular. Of course, I would rather just use my treasures and not sacrifice them with Galazeth Prismari. This legendary Elder Dragon is only 4 mana and comes with a powerful effect. Belongs in your Spellslinger decks. It's amazing. And also, the full art version is less than the normal version, so I would definitely pick up that. Now, if you are running a Spellslinger deck, I would take a look at Archmage Emeritus. This is coming out of Strixhaven, and it just has Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card. Drawing a card is one of the best things that you can do when it comes to Magecraft, but if you're interested in draining your opponent, you can look at Professor Onyx, or creating 1/1s, you can look at Sedgemoor Witch. The Magecraft ability is really great, and I really like that it interacts with copying spells too. I think it adds a lot more flexibility in interesting corner cases. As long as we're talking about instants and sorcery spells, you could check out Wandering Archaic. This 5 mana avatar taxes your opponent's instants and sorceries, and so unless they pay 2, you get your own copy. So whether it's ramp or removal or card draw, a lot of times I've gotten a ton of value by just having this Archaic on the battlefield. People are like, yeah, sure, ramp your card, or yeah, sure, ponder Preordain. And the backside of Explore the Vastlands can be useful sometimes. I've used it to get myself out of a jam and make sure to hit my next land drop. Let's talk about the other colorless card on this list, and that's Forsaken Monument. 5 mana legendary artifact, colorless creatures you control get +2/+2. Whenever you tap a permanent for colorless, add an additional colorless. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, you gain 2 life. This does a little bit of everything, and it's pretty narrow, only belongs in those colorless decks, but it does a lot. And if you find yourself facing down those Artifact Matters decks, you're going to want a copy of Thieving Skydiver. 1 and a blue for a 2/1 Merfolk Rogue. It has Kicker X, and when you sink X mana into it, you can start stealing artifacts. Soul Ring only costs 1, so you get to steal that Soul Ring for 1, those Signets for 2. It always has a target to steal. That tempo swing of taking something out while adding to the battlefield is really solid, which is why I've been playing a lot more of Skyclave Apparition. This was a standard staple, and it's served me well in Commander so far. I know Skyclave can only hit things 4 or less, but the fact that it doesn't give it back to them like a Banisher Priest would or an Oblivion Ring or something like that, it just gives them a token that I don't care about, is exactly what I'm looking for. Skyclave is solid removal, but I think the best piece of removal is Baleful Mastery from Strixhaven. 3 and a black for an instant exile target creature or planeswalker. Fantastic, okay? But if I'm pressed for mana, or if I want to make a friend, I can pay 1 and a black, still exile target creature or planeswalker, but then choose an opponent to get a card. And it doesn't have to be the one who I'm going after. It could be my ally or my friend. Here, give my ally a card, make sure that they're more on my side, and still take something out. Exile instant speed, so good. Although not as good as Baleful Mastery, I do like Kaya the Inexorable as a piece of removal. 3 white-black for a 5 loyalty planeswalker, -3, exile target non-land permanent. Boom, done, exiled, and Kaya sticks around. The +1 is great because it really protects Kaya. And if you have enter the battlefield creatures that have dies triggers, stuff like that, then protecting them is going to be really good. So I think that it plays really well on 2 separate angles, even though at 5 mana it's slow, even though it's sorcery speed, it's slow. But coming in at around $2, $2.75 for a cool version. Yeah, this is an inexpensive planeswalker that has a real effect on Commander games. All right, now I want to talk about some tricky removal. This is Tybalt's Trickery, the red counter spell. 1 and a red for an instant, counter target spell. Choose 1, 2, or 3 at random. Its controller mills that many cards, then exiles from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card with a different name than the spell. They may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Great. It's counters in red. You can do all sorts of sneaky stuff with it. And you're like, look, this is horrible what you're casting. I'm going to give you something else at random, but at least it's not this. I love those types of counter spells. They are very, very fun. Let's talk about another tricky instant in Mystic Reflection. This did not see very much standard play, but I think it's super fun for Commander. It has Foretell, and you can foretell it for a blue. Choose target non-legendary creature. The next time 1 or more creatures or planeswalkers enter the battlefield this turn, they enter as copies of the chosen creature. So you can use this offensively. Your opponent plays a gigantic creature. They play a Coma that can't be countered. And you're like, I turned it into that squirrel. You can do that. You can also use it offensively. You know, there's the classic Avenger of Zendikar where you say, okay, you know, I cast Avenger of Zendikar. You're about to make a bunch of plant tokens, but Mystic Reflection turns all those plants into other copies of Avenger of Zendikar, making a massive amount of plants, pumping everything up with land drops. It just becomes crazy. You can do this with a ton of different token creators. And so the magic potential, like the Commander potential top end of crazy plays is totally out there. Spectacular. All right, if that suggestion was a little bit too crazy, let's bring it back down to earth. Let's talk about lands. There were some great lands in here. I really like the creature lands they have, like Lair of the Hydra or Cave of the Frost Dragon. Those have been really good. And the alternate art versions of them are spectacular too, and not even that expensive. So I'm definitely going to pick up a few copies of that. Of course, the lands that I think are by far the most impactful, going to see the most play across Commander formats, are the dual face lands like Turntimber Symbiosis or Hagra Mauling. Just honestly, all of them. I've talked about how good they are in tons of other videos. I've talked about it on the Command Zone. So if you don't have them, pick them up because they're Commander staples forever. There are only a couple cards left that I want to talk about, and these ones, well, they attack. First up, let's talk about Vorinclex Monstrous Raider. This thing comes down, it swings in, it does a ton of damage, but it synergizes so well with all of those +1/+1 counter synergies with Planeswalkers. It's just another Doubling Season, and Doubling Season is a crazy expensive card. This is still really pricey, honestly. I find it amazing too that the Phyrexian version is the cheapest, coming in at $28. The normal version is $32, but the cool bordered one from Kaldheim is only $35. Gosh, that's a lot of money. I don't know if I want to commit to it, but if you do have a Planeswalker deck, a +1/+1 counter deck, you're gonna want a copy of Vorinclex. Let's talk some more about attacking Blade Historian. This has really impressed me. It's Boros, Boros, Boros for a 2/3 human cleric. Attacking creatures you control have double strike. You play it, it's almost like an anthem. I really like that it's a human too. You can play it off of Winota, search for it. There's tons of different synergies there. It is narrow because its casting cost is kind of difficult, and also it's in Boros. But odds are if you're in Boros, you want to be attacking anyways. Great fan of Blade Historian. But I think the card that attacks the best is Toski, Bearer of Secrets. Toski's little squirrel can't be countered, it's indestructible, attacks each combat if able. It's only a 1/1, but whenever any creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. That ability is spectacular. It can regularly just refill your hand out of nowhere. Of course, everyone has picked up on this. Your normal versions are $8.50, but the better version, the one where Toski is way cuter and it has the good frame, is only $7.50. Now, this isn't all of the good cards from those rotating sets. I also think that they're good enough to make an impact in your Commander game and belong in your staple binder. You know I didn't get them all, so let me know in the comments down below what singles from rotating sets you think people should pick up. And if you're looking to buy these cards, go ahead and head on over to Cool Stuff Inc. They're the sponsor of the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel. And if you use the coupon code JUMBO5, then you can save 5% off your order to get all of these great cards. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a good one. Bye.